So when we talk about karma from a Buddhist perspective, one basic practical delineation or categorization of karma is based on what we call the three doors. The three doors are a way of thinking about action and what we might call action in a Buddhist context. So of course, before the Buddha came, karma was a word used to describe acts that had potency. So it was a word, of course, it was a simple word that simply meant action. And in a secular context, it could refer often to work, like a person who worked with their hands. A farmer would do karma. But in a religious context, it came to take on a new meaning, even before the Buddha. And the meaning was certain acts that had potency, that had significance. And so the Buddha taught that, well, first off, many of the acts that were thought to have some kind of spiritual or religious significance, that they really had no significance, like lighting fires, pouring oblations over the fire, reciting ritual words, that all of them were actually meaningless and useless, inconsequential. But second, he pointed to a proper delineation of acts that really did have significance. And he would often categorize these based on the three doors. So the first door is the physical door. And this encompasses any act that we do with the body that has significance. So what acts have significance? Well, killing has significance. And by extension, any kind of physical harm to someone else has significance. Stealing has significance. Sexuality, sexual misconduct has significance. These are singled out as very significant bad karma. So these things that you might do with the body are things which have profound significance. On the other hand, kindness, acts of kindness with the body, even just waving hello, shaking someone's hand. In Buddhism, for example, holding your hands up to your chest in reverence is a physical act. And this is useful for a meditator to think about in terms of a part of our life that is very significant, is very important, that can have great significance to us, because of course the real significance of karma is how it affects you, how it affects your future, how it affects your present, how it affects your habits. And so with everything we do throughout the day, we can think about the ethical nature of it. When I do this, is this a kind thing? Am I acting in a threatening manner? Am I acting in a disruptive manner? Am I doing something this thing that I'm going to do, this work that I'm going to do, is this harmful to others? Is this harmful to myself? And that sort of thing. The second door is the verbal door. And this gets a little more challenging, right? Challenging to categorize our speech and to perceive the nature of our speech as being positive, beneficial, wholesome, or being unbeneficial and unwholesome. So, because so much of our speech and so much of the habit of our speech is unwholesome, talking about gossiping or harsh speech, our tendency to hurt others with speech, or to be critical of others, any kind of speech that is ethically significant, that has some nature, some effect on other people. When we tell lies is a very big one. We try to manipulate others, try to distort their sense of reality by telling them something that's not true, to mislead them. When we speak even useless speech, we talk about things that divert people from reality or cultivate restlessness in the mind or distraction in the mind. A lot of our speech is just has the effect of increasing our mental activity and cultivating distracted thoughts. And we might not realize this until we begin to practice meditation, but for a meditator this is quite significant. Our speech, when we engage in speech that is not necessarily harmful, but is outside of what is of any benefit, then our minds become distracted by that. And it's very challenging to then keep your mind focused on reality, focused on your experience, because you'll constantly be referring back to or being distracted. You'll be constantly thinking about those things that have nothing to do with your present experience. Of course, not to mention all of the speech that has been harmful to others, that then makes us feel guilty and worried and makes us go over again and again the things that we said, concerned that we may have hurt someone or concerned that we may have been taken the wrong way, feeling guilty about lying and manipulating others. These are very weighty karmas that make it near impossible to have any sense of stability or any sense of peace, clarity, when you sit down to do meditation or do walking meditation. So it's useful again to categorize and to point out the importance of speech. There is actions, and everything we do should be contemplated. The Buddha said, before you do something, think about this thing that I'm going to do. Is this valuable? Is this beneficial? What good is it? Is this going to lead to happiness, even just for me? And when you speak as well, be conscientious about your speech. These things that I say, are these conducive to harmony, to beneficence? Are these helpful? Are these words that I'm going to speak of benefit? Of course, this takes mindfulness, and it's why not only is it important for meditators, but it's an important aspect of the importance of meditation. Why meditation is so important? Because otherwise it's very hard to refrain and to refrain from unwholesome deeds and ensure that your actions and speech are beneficial, are wholesome. Which of course brings us to the third door, and this is the door of the mind. In the time of the Buddha, the mind door was not seen as very significant, and I would say that even today, we don't put so much significance on the mind. Even when we do, we consider it to be a fairly simple, simplistic sort of thing, the mind, often thinking of it as a product of the brain. But we put so much more significance on the body, thinking of all the things that we do with the body. Why do you punish someone? Not for what they think. You punish someone for what they do. You get upset at someone not for what they think or what they feel, but because of what they do and because of what they say. You can condemn someone because of their actions and their speech. Now the Buddha flipped this around and said, the truth is, the physical and the verbal are near inconsequential in comparison to the mind. And why I say near inconsequential is because one important consequence is this fact that I've referred to, that they are blamed because they enhance or they amplify the power of the mind. A physical act is only an unwholesome act because of the state of mind when you do it. However, doing an act based on the unwholesome mind increases the intensity of the mind states as well. Wanting to hurt someone may have some anger associated with it, but the act of hurting is a much more impactful act even on your own mind, even on the effects it has on your state of mind. So the other important takeaway from this is that basically anything we do or say with a mind that is wholesome or unwholesome is going to be karmically active. It's going to be ethically charged. If you stomp around your room angrily, that's bad karma. That's physical karma. And there's two aspects there. Of course, the way it's perceived by others is going to be in a negative way. When they see you do something with anger, that's going to affect them. And the even more important, again, is the effect that it has on your mind. You cultivating that anger and expressing it physically or verbally, even if you go into your room and you yell and you shout to yourself because you don't want to hurt someone else. Even simply the effect that your words have on your own mind because of the amplification of the mental states. So it's not to trivialize the importance of the body and speech. And in fact, body and speech are such a great way to understand the nature of the mind. But ultimately, it is the nature of the mind that is most important. And so the hardest thing, and yet the most important thing, is to guard your mind and to be present with the arising of all of the many various types of mind states that might arise, to be able to filter, to be able to catch and to discern the quality of the mind. Is this a mind that is to my benefit? Is this a helpful mind that is leading to my peace and happiness and freedom from suffering? Or is this leading to further entanglement, further problems that is going to cause me stress and suffering, and at the same time cause stress and suffering to others, which will only lead right back to more stress and suffering for me as I feel bad about it, as I fall into trouble, have trouble in relationships and in my interactions with the world because of the bad things that I've done, because of my attitude. So for physical and verbal acts, the mind is critical. And the quality of the mind is going to be the most important thing. And in fact, it turns out that you don't have to pay direct attention in terms of judgment, in terms of judging, discriminating good from bad. The actions and speech that you do, all you have to do is look at your mind. What is your state of mind when you act and when you speak? And if your quality of mind is pure, then your actions and speech can only be pure as a result. You could never kill, you could never steal. The unwholesome mind states required for them just never arise. Required for such acts just never arise. But further, the simple states of mind before and dissociated from any verbal or physical act are enough to be highly impactful to your state of happiness and peace, right? You don't have to do or say something to suffer terribly from unwholesomeness. If you're consumed by anger and hatred, it doesn't matter. Of course, the actions and speech are going to make it worse. But simply being consumed by that, it's people who are consumed by trauma, reliving past trauma again and again. There's anger in that. There's aversion in that, whether it be through fear or sadness or depression or even anger, hatred. All of these things are consuming. They consume the mind. Likewise, on the other side, or conversely, let's say, if your mind is consumed or encompassed by kindness, compassion, and of course, mindfulness and clarity. When your mind is clear, it doesn't matter whether you ever do great things in the world. There's a greatness about your mind, and you have, for yourself, the freedom from stress, suffering, and evil. And so, regardless of how you change the world or how you help the world around you, you have done what needs to be done. You are at peace. Anyone who might criticize you doesn't lead to any doubt or worry for you, because you are at peace. A person can be completely apart from the world and do all that needs to be done. You could say they have done their duty, and you could point out that if everyone were to do the same thing, there would be no problems in the world. There would be no suffering, no stress. So it is absolutely significant what happens in the mind without any action or speech. And so really, ultimately, the mind is the most important and the most powerful, the most impactful of the three doors. That being said, again, all three are a part of our mental activity. And again, our actions and our speech amplify. And so we have this categorization. And it's a very simple categorization, something that's very easy to remember, quick to come to mind, and so very useful for us as Buddhists and as Buddhist meditators to remember our actions are impactful, our speech is impactful, and our mind, our states of mind are hugely impactful. So some thoughts and ideas that are hopefully helpful and beneficial, those of you who are practicing the Buddha's teaching. Thank you.